So this is the second topic which was asked in the essay paper. The topic goes like this: that the visionary decision making it happens at the intersection of intuition and logic. So again, a very relevant topic in today's context, because we know that India, presided over the G20 summit, which happened in New Delhi, and the entire globe actually hailed India's visionary announcements related to certain aspects like biofuel, etc. But the point is how a visionary decision making, that core idea which this topic is emphasizing, that it is the intersection. It happens. A visionary decision making happens at the intersection of intuition and logic. These two keywords, intuition as well as a logic. Or a leader who is visionary in nature, he will use his intuition as well as the logic to come about and make that decision. So let's quickly run through the write-up. So leaders throughout history have often been celebrated for their ability to make visionary decisions that shape the course of nations, right? So it is able to foresee something which is not there in the present, right? That only a visionary can see, right? So organizations and even civilizations. However, the process of visionary decision making is far from straightforward. It's definitely not simple, and it's complex interplay between intuition. Again, we're trying to connect to the topic, trying to stick as much as to the topic only. Between intuition, it's again related to a human aspect of human cognition, and logic. Logic relates to our rational mind, where intuition is not much connected to the rational mind, you can say, in one sense, right? So, and the analytical side of our thinking, that is the logic part, right? So we will explore the notion that visionary decision making happens at the intersection of intuition and logic, kind of two opposing aspects of human mind, right? Rational and, you can say, not so rational. So by examining the historical figures, case studies, and multidimensional perspectives, we will uncover the dynamic relation between these two seemingly opposing forces and their role in shaping the future. Again, in the first topic, we talked about how thinking is like a game, and we need an opposing stimulus for the thought process to improve. So similarly, in that sense, these two, intuition and logic, are kind of opposing forces. So let us look at the nature of visionary leadership first. Visionary decision making. So visionary decision making is not confined to a specific field or discipline, right? It transcends socio-cultural, political, and economic context. So at its core, a visionary decision making is about envisioning a future that deviates from the status quo. This is about the core aspect of visionary decision making, which says that it sees a future which is beyond the present, which normally most people don't see, right? That is how a visionary is separate from the status quo. A status quo person is a person who is in the comfort zone. He doesn't want to deviate much from the current status quo. But a visionary will foresee a future which is very much different from this. And for that, what he does, he takes calculated risks. So because without risks there is no reward in life, so you have to take calculated risks to bring that vision which is different from the current status quo to life. It is the hallmark of leaders who dare to challenge convention and inspire change. So only through them people get inspired, and then they take a step forward. So Gandhi said, "My life is my message." So he's setting an example through his actions, through his visionary decisions. So to understand the process more deeply, we must first dissect the components of intuition and logic. So the two keywords in the topic, which is intuition and logic, we must first understand them in more depth. So first, coming to the power of intuition. So what is intuition? Intuition is often regarded as the gut feeling, right? How do you define intuition? So this is how it is a kind of instinctive knowledge. So it comes to you in a flash, something like that. It plays a pivotal role in visionary decision making. So it is a subconscious process that draws out from our vast, reserve of experiences, emotions, and sensory inputs, right? So it is something which is more related to the wisdom component, intuition, because it's not just knowledge. It is instinctive knowledge which comes in a flash in front of us, when there is any thing, right, for any stimulus. So it comes, how does it come up? It comes through our experience, right, our human emotion, and also the inputs which we have already given to our senses, right? So intuition allows leaders to make rapid judgments. that's why it is very core component of decision making, because decision making, is something which is it has to be high, it has to happen very fast, right? Or on time at least. So rapid judgments. So often in the absence of complete information, right? Because we don't necessarily need to have all the information at times, based on patterns and insights accumulated over time. So one crucial example, which we can read from world history, is the example of Abraham Lincoln. So during the abolition of slavery context and the civil war which was happening in the US, so the Emancipation Proclamation which he declared, so that changed the course of civil war. So Abraham Lincoln's decision to issue Emancipation Proclamation during the American Civil War is a remarkable example of intuitive visionary decision making, right? So despite the immense political, social, and economic pressures prevailing at that time, so he uses intuition that using this proclamation, it would fundamentally alter the course of war and the nation, right? So because of this, ultimately the civil war, you can say, had a logical conclusion in itself. So his decision, it was guided by deep moral intuition, so ultimately paved the way for abolition of slavery in the US. So this Emancipation Proclamation itself, that was an intuitive act, you can say, from Abraham Lincoln in that context. So this is one example of intuition which you can give. And coming to the role of logic, so logic, we know it's linked to rational and things like that, but look at the example which we give here, right? So while intuition provides a foundation for visionary, so intuition is giving the first foundation. It's often coupled with logical and analytical framework. So what does logic do? Logic helps leaders to assess the feasibility of the whatever we think. Intuitively, mind might come up with anything, but is the logic is the one which tells whether it's practical, whether it's feasible, right? So it demands a systematic examination of whatever data is there, whatever risks which we can take, and formulate a strategic plan. So, for example, one visionary leader which we all talk about is Steve Jobs, right? So Steve Jobs, through his product of Apple, was known for his visionary thinking. So when developing the Macintosh computer back then, Jobs combined his intuition and logic. So what was his intuition? His intuition told him that people would embrace a user-friendly personal computer, right? So this was what he saw. He foresaw that that people need a user-friendly device, right? While his logic said that this user-friendly thing doesn't come up so easily, so it required meticulous design, functionality, right, and marketing strategy. So that's why Apple is the biggest, as you can see even today, for its brand value, etc., is the largest market cap company. So this combination resulted in a Macintosh, a product that revolutionized the computer industry, right? So that's how the entire change from the status quo to the new thing. That was the vision which Steve Jobs had, combining intuition as well as the logic. So again, now linking to the topic itself, that visionary decision making lies at the intersection of intuition and logic. So visionary leaders understand that intuition and logic are not opposing forces, right? This is a very crucial point. So normally people think that they're opposite, but leaders acknowledge that both are crucial, and they are complementary aspects of decision making. So the intersection of these two elements allows leaders to harness the creative potential of intuition while tempering it with the practicality of logic, right? So this synergy empowers leaders to take daring decisions, right? So they take that extra mile, the extra risk which is required, and then which ultimately pays off with high reward. So one more example in this context is the recent example of Elon Musk, with his visionary idea of SpaceX versus colonizing the space in that context, right? So Elon Musk's vision for humanity to become a multi-planetary species, right? So we are now confined to just the planet Earth, but he's foreseeing a future where humans are a multi-planetary species. Again, something which is way beyond the current realm. So the SpaceX is a testament to the interplay of intuition and logic. So his intuition led him to recognize the urgency of exploring other planets, while his logical approach involved meticulous planning and engineering required to make space travel accessible and more sustainable, right? So that's the example of a SpaceX mission which is currently happening. So the conclusion in this context can be that as we look toward the future, the intersection of intuition and logic in visionary decision making becomes increasingly important. Why? Because in a rapidly changing world marketed by technology, global challenges we see, climate change, societal transformations. So leaders must navigate complex landscapes with a blend of visionary insight and practical reasoning. So there has to be visionary aspect also, and it has to be feasible also. So it is both ways. Irrational to some extent, but making it rational is the logic. The future, so the future of visionary decision making lies in leaders who can harness this power of intuition to envision bold possibilities and combine it with the rigor of logic to transform those visions into reality, right? So whether in addressing climate change or the medical discoveries, like because you can talk about any challenge which we recently faced, like COVID, etc., or fostering global cooperation required for climate change. So the ability of to make visionary decisions at this intersection will be the cornerstone of progress and innovation going forward. So talk about the relevance of this topic for the future. So the leaders of tomorrow must not only recognize the interplay of intuition and logic, but also cultivate it as a skill essential for reshaping a better future for humanity, right? So we have to foresee that thing which is beyond the current status quo. So in this dynamic interplay between intuitive and the logical, the potential to steer our world towards greater heights and unparalleled achievement. So that is how the relevance of this topic is brought about in the conclusion, making it more futuristic and giving hope to the future. And with such examples, this topic, again, a very crucial topic to think on, right? Visionary decision making lies at the intersection of intuition and logic. So that's it for this topic.